Hey everyone, it's Rachel. Thanks for coming on back today and joining me for another review. Today we're going to be talking about Kringle Country Candles Gingerbread Tiramisu. And before I really dive into this review, I do need to let you guys know this candle was gifted to me. I was gifted several of the holiday candles this year from the core collection, actually the whole core collection. So you'll be hearing this spiel a lot from me, but I am a Kringle Candle ambassador, and sometimes we'll be sent candles like this for review. Sometimes we'll get a little bit of a discount or early access to things. I also have a discount code that you're welcome to use that will save you 15% off on your purchase, and you'll find it in the description here. But if you use code SIMPLYSCENTED at checkout, all one word, that gets you 15% off, and I do get a small commission from that. And basically what I do is send that money right back over to Kringle in the form of other candle purchases and things to talk about here on this channel and review for you guys. So thank you so much for everyone who's ever used that code. It really does make a difference, and I appreciate every single one. It's really, I hate talking sales, but I do want to say thank you. And I unfortunately, it's part of the beast having to put that disclaimer in there. And I'll always have the disclosure in the description as well. So full transparency around here. If you have any questions, let me know. But let's get into this review today. So we're going to talk about Gingerbread Tiramisu. And I feel like this is one of the stars of the core lineup this year, guys. I really do. There isn't a ton of candles that really have a true holiday feel in the core lineup. I feel like a lot of them are winter-esque. Not that they're bad fragrances, but if you're really looking for something more holiday, I feel like this is one of the standouts. And what I'll do here is read you guys the notes, read you their description, and then I'll kind of get into what my opinion is. So we've got warm notes of toasted ginger snap cookies laced with invigorating hints of dark roast coffee bean, sweet sugar sprinkles, and an accent of pure vanilla. There's top notes of spice and pastry, mid notes of coffee bean and brown sugar, and base notes of spice and butter. So I did a little first burn impressions over on my Instagram before I kind of got established over here. And essentially what I talked about was the fact that I really prefer a sort of sweet gingerbread. I'm not really a fan of the heavily spiced versions. There's so many gingerbread candles out there, and I'm really picky about the ones I like. I really don't like them to be too spice focused, which I feel like happens a lot of the time. So when I opened this jar on cold, I was really pleasantly surprised to find that I got a lot of that pastry aspect to it. It's a very sort of sweet gingerbread, pastry notes on cold, just very bakery. And there was also some sort of sweet, kind of creamy, vanilla, sort of maybe frosting-like piece kind of swirling through that. So I was really pleased on cold. And thankfully, getting into the burn here, and as you can see, I'm a good way into this candle, but that has remained the case, and I couldn't be happier. So I guess we'll talk about sort of the gingerbread aspect first, and then kind of dissect the rest here. So if you're talking about the gingerbread here, for me, it is along the lines of a more cakey sort of gingerbread, and the spice. Think of your traditional gingerbread spices, ginger, ground ginger, you've got cinnamon, you've got a little nutmeg in there maybe. I also get a hint of a molasses, which, if you make gingerbread from scratch, typically you do use molasses. It's not coming across syrupy, but there's just a kind of a deepness or a richness to that spicy quality that is kind of in accordance with molasses. And with the brown sugar note that they give us, that could be where it's coming from, because that typically is, your sugar crystals mixed in molasses. So whether you have a light or a dark sugar, this is more probably the light brown sugar, not heavy on that molasses piece, but just kind of in there, sort of slightly present. That's kind of what I'm getting here. And then you take those spices and you fold it into that more cakey gingerbread. So for me, this is going more along the lines of an actual bread gingerbread rather than cookie. So even though they say toasted ginger snap cookies, to me, I'm not really getting that. I'm getting more of a denseness to this pastry. So if you think along the lines of maybe like a muffin, I also referenced the Pillsbury gingerbread quick bread mix, those sweet breads that you kind of cook in a little loaf pan, you know, something along those lines. But I guess we'll talk muffin here just for simplicity. But if you think about the kind of density of a muffin, it's still sweet, but it's not quite as airy as a cake, not quite as fluffy as a cake. It's just a little more of like a rich sort of bakery presence. And, you know, that's the best way I can think to describe this overall gingerbread piece. So now you've got that. You take it and you mix it with a sort of toned down buttercream, if you will. So if you think about a traditional American buttercream, that's a very, very sweet frosting. Uses butter, confectioner sugar, some vanilla. So I'm getting the vanilla. I'm getting some of that rich, buttery quality to it, making it very creamy. But instead of being super cloyingly sweet, you're maybe going to cut that sugar down. Less confectioner, maybe it's a little more of that brown sugar coming into play, but it's not quite as sweet as a traditional frosting. And possibly what's happening here is the other element, which we have coffee bean. So I don't distinctly smell anything that, you know, screams coffee when I smell this, but I do, if I kind of look for it, I kind of get that sort of the essence of a coffee bean, maybe like, you know, from the bag, not quite sticking your full, you know, nose over the bag, getting that strong aroma of a coffee bean, but just sort of that like sort of presence. And what I think is happening is they kind of use it here in a way of cutting down and contrasting some of that sweetness to keep it from going a little bit cloying. So, you know, coffee bean not really being a featured scent note, but more of a complementary scent note in this way that helps kind of piece this all together, keep it more balanced from going full-blown sweet, keep it from going too rich in that spiciness, just the slightest hint of I'm reluctant to say bitterness, but I don't really know what other word to use, but just something that is just cutting down that overall rich, sweet fragrance that we have here. And I think it's done really nicely. It kind of keeps the essence of a tiramisu. So I feel like, you know, packaging, candle name, everything, the scent notes, everything kind of works together very nicely here. I'm very happy. It's a very holiday bakery, but I'm really enjoying it in the fall, and I can also see myself enjoying it well past Christmas into those cool winter months, even like on a cool spring day, you know, it's rainy and you just want some kind of warm, comforting bakery. You know, that they do say toasted ginger snaps. There is a warmth to this as well. So, you know, I don't know, but it's just like that warm for the soul, rich, kind of just heavier country, heavier kind of bakery. Sorry, I'm just a lot of words floating around in my head right now, guys. Just bear with me. But getting back, all right, so let's go on track here. Performance. This has been really outstanding as far as performance, at least by my standards. This has started out quite strong for a bakery candle. Some of them really just kind of fall a little flat, but this one is holding its own, even from the first burn. As you can see, I'm good like probably like almost halfway to, about to the halfway point, or at least my biggest melt pool was to the halfway point here. You know, many hours have been into this candle. Like this is probably like my 8th or 9th burn. I really don't know, but you know, performance has been fairly consistent. I did have a couple burns that were a little bit more subdued in fragrance, but it's never been non-existent. So if numbers help, I would say never less than a 6 for me, and you know, never greater than an 8. So not a full-blown powerhouse, but a very nice present in the kitchen that I burn in for the most part, which is an open concept into the living room where there's high ceilings. So I'll smell it a little bit into the living room, a little down the hall, and just, you know, it's very nice. It's not overwhelming. It has not become cloying. And I even did a little experiment for you guys. If you can see, there's kind of a line below my wax pool. So one day what I did was, just for curiosity's sake, and before I put my full stamp of approval on this, because it does have that sort of toasty, spice, sweet element to it, I wanted to see that if I let it go a little too long, would it turn burnt or singed, or any of those off qualities that I see a lot of you guys will say, yeah, my candle started great, but it turned burnt smelling about halfway, or something along those lines. So I did a longer burn one day. I went past my standard of 4 to 5 hours, and I just let it go. It got a very nice deep pool. You can kind of see the line there. And never at any point did it ever get any sort of burnt tinge. It didn't smell scorched. It didn't get sooty. I think you can kind of see pretty well in this frame here. The jar is quite clean. I'm not having any issues with soot. So really, guys, I mean, performance, if they all performed like this, I would be so happy. We know that's not going to be the case, but for me so far, this has been a great experience. I can't promise you the rest of the candle will stay this way. I can only speak to what I've burned, but yeah, so far so good. And I really think you guys that are bakery fans will appreciate this one. In terms of comparisons, there is Gingerbread Latte from Country Candle as well. If that one's in your collection, I feel like this one is different enough to try, especially if you like the bakery piece, because Gingerbread Latte I feel was more focused on the spice and kind of a milky quality, definitely a more of a beverage sort of gingerbread. It didn't have that bakery piece. So if you're thinking, do I need both? I think, yeah, you do. They're very different fragrances, especially if you like that bakery gingerbread. Another one that comes to mind is Village Candles Pumpkin Bread. I don't know who will remember this one. I know Village isn't really talked about as much these days. They kind of fell off the map a little bit. But a few years back, they came out with pumpkin bread, and I remember it was like everyone was loving this candle. It was all over the Facebook groups. And if you liked that one, that was immediately where my mind went when I started burning this one. It was like, oh, it's really reminiscent of pumpkin bread in that it's got that bready, warm spice. I feel like Village's pumpkin bread is more pumpkin spice rather than gingerbread. But that one's also, I think, a little bit sweeter and did get a little cloying for me. Doesn't have that coffee bean in there to cut it down. But yeah, if you like Village Candles Pumpkin Bread, I think you'll love this one too. And then just for my old school Yankee Candle lovers, there was one, I think it was called Cinnamon Sugar. It's going back a ways now, but it was like that brown sugar and spice. I don't remember it having too much of a bakery piece, but if you like that just comforting, warm spice type of candle, I think you'll like this. I certainly do. I will need to be getting myself another one of these at some point because I am just really enjoying it. So thank you guys for tuning into this review. I hope you find that helpful, either, to rule it out or to put that on your list. And I do think I'll be doing a couple more spice fragrances and using a similar setup to what you see here, just for simplicity's sake, just to get things rolling. So I apologize if the scene kind of stays the same. See if I could change it up a little bit, but I do have a lot of reviews coming up. So if you want to get alerts for those, make sure you subscribe. And as always, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being so wonderful. And I hope to talk to you guys again very soon with another review.